Well, if you find yourself getting to the point of growing houseplants where you have enough that it kind of makes sense to consider creating your own potting mix blends, well, in this video, I'm going to go through some of the most common ingredients that you will find in bagged houseplant potting mixes so that you can either start from scratch and create your own or add to pre-mixed blends to create more specialized blends that might be for specific plants that need a little bit of extra TLC. Now, generally when we're growing just very low maintenance houseplants such as snake plant, pothos, even monstera, a bagged houseplant potting mix is going to be a-okay. But once you start investing in a little bit more expensive exotic houseplants like specific anthuriums or philodendrons, you might find it's worthwhile manipulating that soil medium a little bit to create a substrate that is more conducive to healthy roots for that specific plant. So let's get into the list of different ingredients that you will generally find in our bagged houseplant mixes. Now the first one on the list is this guy. This is Perlite. Many of us are familiar with these tiny little white specks that you find in your potting mix blends. Now what this actually is, it is volcanic glass. And the reason that we add this to our soil potting mixes is because it adds an additional layer of porosity. These little tiny white pebbles are extremely lightweight, so when you add them into your blends, it really improves the drainage while also allowing for better airflow to take place in your root system. So if you tend to overwater your plants or deal with things like root rot, this is a great addition to add to your blends. Do take note though that when you are pouring this out of the bags, it does create quite a bit of dust, and that's not something that you really want to breathe in, so consider wearing a mask. The next one on the list is Vermiculite, which many times you will find you can use Perlite and Vermiculite interchangeably, and that's generally the case. These are tiny brown minerals, naturally occurring brown minerals that also improve the levels of oxygen in your soil while allowing for improved drainage. Now the main difference is that the Perlite really improves that drainage for really sharp drainage. This does a little bit better on water retention. So if you want strictly good drainage, go for the Perlite. If you want a little bit of water retention, Vermiculite is a great option for that. I tend to overwinter a lot of roots and rhizomes such as canna lilies, and when I am overwintering those, I always opt to use Vermiculite because of that added water retention that it does provide. Now, something that has gained a lot of traction lately would be this coco peat. This is seen to be a great alternative to peat moss as it is considered more environmentally friendly. We'll talk a little bit about peat moss here in a bit. But what this is the outer husks of coconuts that have been really finely shredded, packed into like pucks or into bricks and dehydrated. And then once you take them, you're going to put them in water, allow them to rehydrate, and as such they can be a great addition to your soil mediums, but they can also be used to grow plants hydroponically, as well as you can actually grow plants just strictly in the coco peat. Now before you go and just replant all of your plants in the coco peat, it should be noted that this retains a lot of moisture. So if a specific plant does not like to be sitting in too much moisture, generally you're not going to want to plant strictly in this coco peat. I find that I do like that additional water retention in a much smaller proportion. That's why I like to add it into my soil mixes rather than using it strictly as a growing medium solely on its own. All right, so now let's get to the two mosses. There's a lot of confusion about them. I have a video that specifically delineates between the two. You can check the description if you want some more instruction on that. But sphagnum moss, which looks like this is a long fibered moss which grows on the surface of the soil in places like New Zealand and Canada, Scotland. And this is an awesome addition to your containers and an awesome addition to your soil substrates because it does really, even more so than that coco peat, really increases the levity of your soil mix. And that's really nice for plants such as aeroids. I always use this with all of my aeroids. That's our anthuriums, philodendrons, monstera, many more. And this is not one of those unenvironmentally friendly mosses. This, specifically sphagnum moss, like this, it grows in abundance. Generally, you have to break it up before using it because it is these long fibers, but it is an awesome material. It's also pH neutral, and generally when you find orchids growing at the stores, this is one of 2 ingredients that you will find orchids growing in, sphagnum moss and the other being orchid bark, which we will talk about here in a minute. Now, peat moss, which is also sometimes labeled as sphagnum peat moss. Now this is the moss that is kind of being decided that gardeners should not use it because it does take a very long time to be created, and the harvesting of this in the bogs, it's not the most environmentally friendly. I don't know enough to say whether or not that's true or not, but what I do know enough is that there are other alternatives out there like that coco peat, that using peat moss really is not a necessary thing to use. So if there is any question, you may as well opt for something else. Now peat moss, just a little bit of information. This is like layers and layers and layers of that sphagnum moss that we were just looking at that has been sort of like compressed over thousands of years to create this very acidic peat moss. So if you ever see a moss that has the word peat in it, that is the acidic version. If you just see sphagnum moss, that's what we were just looking at, and this is the all good to go version. Now, worm castings is probably my favorite way to fertilize my houseplants. This is an all-natural and organic fertilizer. It is the poop from worms. These black gold is what it's often known as. And the great thing about worm castings is that this will never burn the roots of your plants. If you're using water-soluble chemical fertilizers and you're just adding too much to your plants, over time that can really burn out those roots. That's not going to happen with our worm castings. Rather, the worm castings is kind of like nature's slow-release fertilizer. You can really, truly, I mean, you're not going to want to plant strictly in worm castings, but you can add it consistently every few months to the top of your soil of your houseplants, and it will gently integrate itself into your soil, adding nutrients to that soil that your plant can absorb through its roots, fortifying your plant gently but consistently over time. It has good levels of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, and it also offers great microbes, which are very beneficial. Now, orchid bark, as the name suggests, this is another one of the 2 ingredients that you will find Phalaenopsis orchids growing in your grocery store. They will be generally either orchid bark or that sphagnum moss or a combination of the both. And what this is, it's actually wood chips of generally pine or fir trees that has been chipped up into these little sections that you can add into your soil substrates. And what it does is this also just makes your soil substrate much lighter. It really greatly improves the drainage for your plants as well. So it is an awesome addition. It tends to be pretty expensive, so it's something that I add in just a little bit here and there at a time. But it is a great thing to have on hand, especially for epiphytes or semi-epiphytes if you're growing things like bromeliads or epiphyllum or even many anthurium, which when they're growing out in nature, they'll generally have like air gaps in their root systems, and this can help to mimic that. And last would be the horticultural charcoal. And there's tons of different kinds of horticultural charcoal out there, and I don't know enough to distinguish between them all. It all has to do with how long they've been burnt for, but it's generally things like our coconut husks or specific woods that have been burned and charred, and then you can go and add them into your soil mixes, and just like that orchid bark, it is going to improve the porosity of your soil, allows for greater water drainage. It does tend to add some minerals and also helps to improve the microbial situation in your soil. The benefit of the horticultural charcoal over the orchid bark is that it doesn't break down as quickly. So over time, that orchid bark will break down and integrate into that soil. Horticultural charcoal generally holds its form for much longer. It is also thought that horticultural charcoal can help to remove any contaminants that might be found in your soil or in your water. So this is another expensive addition, but it can be definitely worth using in some of your more prized houseplants. And with that, now you have a pretty extensive background information on some of the most common ingredients that you will find added into our houseplant bagged potting mixes so that you can go make your own or manipulate your own mixes to get your plants growing just right. If you do have any further questions or comments, make sure you leave them down in the comment below. And if you have any additions that you think I should have spoken about, leave those as well. Anyways, thanks for joining me here on Plant Vibrations. I'll catch you next time. Ciao.